I'm just tired. I've been
Have
pulling a
it
lot of late.
your way.
Way tired.
That's
Way
Burger
tired.
King.
Way
Oh
tired.
shit! What's the McDonald's
I'm
thing?
loving it.
Because the economics of television have changed, Steve. That's one of my favorite jokes. I wonder if that genuinely was that genuinely a.
It's really on the cusp, isn't it? Of like sometimes when they're doing a joke, like kind of at the expense. Sometimes they have to pay pay Burger King for that. Sometimes,
Yeah. Every time
like
they
if
mention
it's not an ad, if it's like we want to mention your thing and not be sued. But I don't know. It's a funny
we
one.
have to come to a Burger King to read the map. Because
It's always interesting product
product
placement in TV shows. Obviously, there's the Apple thing, isn't there? So Apple phones, iPhones, you can't have. That's the term for Apple phones. Who knew? You can't. Bad guys can't use iPhones. Quite famously.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And Macs and things like bad guys can't use Apple tech in films and TV.
And if you watched TV shows, movies, you'd think that Apple had a 45% market share on laptops, even though it's
you watch
less
any
than
Netflix
10%.
original show, and it's all Apple phones. You've got me fucking saying it now, Dave. I've forgotten the word.
Apple phones. Do you know what it is? I don't have an iPhone, so it's a term that I don't use daily. So, yes, it's very much like an
Apple mobile telephone.
As opposed to me, who uses my Apple iPhones 14 featuring.
I've never been so connected.
Apple Pairs.
I've been watching Chuck recently, which is a fairly middling to bad TV show from the aughts.
That's a flashback.
However, every single episode of that TV show has Subway in it. They are always eating Subway sandwiches. Several of the characters are always like, "Hey, it's my Subway," and they'll mention the sandwich name. And when you start to notice something, and then it's all you can notice.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably quite. If you don't notice it, it's probably like, "Oh, it's fine." It's just, but then it's like, "Oh, it's Subway. We're watching it. Subway, great. Again, it's Subway." I wonder how much Subway paid for this.
Do we think that product placement is a thing of the past? Is that something that is
a thing of the past?
No, but what I'm saying is,
if anything, Sam, it's become more insidious.
Yeah, it's very much current.
What I'm saying is, it feels like one of those things that in the mid 2000s, everyone was just like, "Oh, this is exactly what network television needs, and this is going to." And it's actually, fucking no one's watching this shit anyway. So, your Google ads are much more effective. Your Facebook ads are much more effective than.
Well, that's the thing. And
Chuck using an iPhone.
So you touched on something there. So back then it was network television, but almost more than any other company, for people who want to get your money or sell their shit, advertisers are right on the cutting edge when it comes to what's the next thing we can sell through. Now it's blockchain and all that there. Hey, we want to put blockchain in your games. You can get right the fuck out. But
Web3. Have you heard of Web3?
But it went from network television to, I don't know if you guys remember, back in the PS3 days, you mentioned Subway, Dave. There was an advert promoting Subway and Uncharted 3. So it was Nathan Drake jumping across this chasm with a fucking it's at the end, have it your way.
Have it your way. No, what's Subway? Eat fresh. That's Subway slogan.
Oh, yeah. To be honest, cross merchandising is
Eat fresh,
a tale as old as time. How many things is Mario shilled for? How many things use the Flintstones to advertise? That's that is a tale as old as time. I think that
it's secular, isn't it?
Oh, hey, Fred.
The Flintstones.
What are you eating there, Fred? Well, Barney, I'm eating the fantastic taste of Rutgers steak in a can. Rutgers steak in a can.
Wasn't it cigarettes? Those menthol cigarettes give you the taste you need. But this
will get you through your dead end job.
Because you had that direct in show advertising, and then it moved on to less sort of offensive sort of things. And then it went to like 90s cartoon shows, which was literally 20-minute adverts, like Power Rangers, Beetleborgs,
Well, famously,
Biker
it's
Mice
the-
from Mars, X-Men.
I had some Biker Mice from Mars toys. Not many though,
Same.
because they were
Me too,
super
me too.
expensive
Same.
for a really middling TV. No, like not a huge
Yeah,
TV
it's
show.
a bit shit, wasn't it?
Yeah, and you couldn't
I'm gonna
fucking get the
say-
toys. They didn't do a cheap version for the poor people.
I'm going to say two
Let's
words to you.
break it down though. Biker Mice from Mars.
Ross, it's totally logical, right? Right? What's cool? Bikers were cool in the 90s, not so much now, but bikers were cool in the 90s, right? Mice are anthropomorphic, fine. Kids will have animals, right? Do you know what's also really cool? Mars. Mars is a different place, right? So let's give them antenna, right? Dress them all in these bike leathers, and they can go around talking like young people talk. It'd be fantastic, honestly. It'd be fantastic. It'd be the most amazing thing ever.
Going to say two words to you. I'm going to say Street Sharks.
Oh,
With Street Sharks.
I
this
was
is
a bit
like...
too old for Street Sharks, but
I think
do
Street
remember.
Sharks
How could you
also
be too
missed
old
me
for
a little
Street
bit, whereas
Sharks?
Biker Mice from Mars was something that I actually watched.
Look at the toys.
I think you were probably too young for Street Sharks, Ross.
too old.
Toys were amazing. The toys you used to push the fin and it would make the jaw go down. They're like actually, if you look at them on Google, they're really well designed. Like they're proper creative looking character models. Jesus, look at the hammerhead one. It's disgusting. I wonder where those toys are. They must be somewhere. My dad's
Yeah,
got a collection
toys
of like all of the old shit. Like we had Captain Scarlet because it, as we discussed in previous episode,
Captain Scarlet. He's a no.
indestructible.
Oh,
This is the voice of the Mr. Rons.
Mr. Rons.
And Captain Scarlet was obviously a show from the 60s, but then the BBC were like, "Well, this is cheap." In the 90s, and it completely revived it. And I think that's fucking great. We had toys, like we had Captain Scarlet toys in the 90s because they just made everything again. There is nothing new.
It was great. It was great if you were poor though, because it meant that you could play with your parents' toys from when they were kids, and you didn't realize how poor you were until you grew up. And you're like, why were we playing with Rosie and Jim
Copyright
toys and
1976.
Thunderbird stuff that was like all made out of Bakelite and fucking straw?
Daddy, why am I?
They have to catch on.
Why am I? Why is my hair falling out? Ah, well, son, you're playing with toys that were built from uranium.
That'll be the plutonium.
With a lead paint. That's
the
how they're so. That's how the colours lasted so well.
It's the irradiated toys of the 1970s.
I don't think we had too many really old toys. My dad had a Meccano set. I don't know if you ever played with Meccano.
I like the idea of Meccano. I never really connected. I don't think like the creativity of it was just a little bit intimidating, but also having to follow instructions was also a little bit intimidating.
Well,
So I
my
think-
dad's set was old and
Just-
used. The paint had all come off. It was rusty and sharp. And like, because they're just like bits of metal with holes in, aren't they? And you bolt them all together into various different, like, you make a crane and you make whatever.
Yeah.
But none of the instructions. Essentially, what we had was a fucking box of rusty bolts.
Well,
and bits of
yeah,
metal.
Risking tetanus
Dave.
every time he opens the toy box.
I don't want to shatter your childhood playthings, but I think you perhaps just had a box of rusty
A
metal.
bag of nails. A bag of
Was
nails.
I
that's
poor? Are we poor? Was
Yeah,
I
son,
poor
play
as
with
a
that.
child?
We used to play with bits of nail in the middle of the road.
It's quite a realization when you like sort of realize, like, when you're like sort of like an older kid, not quite a teenager, but an older kid, you're like, holy shit, I'm poor. What the fuck
Yeah.
is this? I'm
When you
poor.
start to learn about money and you're like, huh, we haven't got any of that. That's strange.
Yeah,
That's
Go to
odd.
someone's house. You're like, wow, fucking hell, this
Genuinely,
is-
it's fine because neither of my parents listen to this, so I can't embarrass them. But like, genuinely, I don't think I'd gone for like a meal at a restaurant until I met you guys. Like, literally, I think I was 18, and it was like,
Jesus
have,
Christ. Always nice to know there's someone poorer than you, isn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. I
My
feel
family
pretty
was
good about
so
myself.
like we'd occasionally go to like like a greasy diner type thing, like very
To the bins out
occasionally.
back, you mean?
or get takeaway. But it wasn't like a sit down and eat a meal that you've ordered. It was never like as
Well,
straightforward
Not
as
even
that.
like
It'd be
not even
like
like Pizza Hut. Like
I had one birthday party. I don't know if he must have fucking won some kind of sweepstake or what. I had one birthday party at Pizza Hut where I got to go into the kitchen and make my own pizza. Like, if you remember that Pizza Hut used to do this. It was like a thing. You go and have it. It was like
don't break him down like this. Yeah, of course
No.
we do, yeah.
No, this is
I
a
remember
genuine
that.
thing that
You got the
Pizza Hut
chef's
did.
hat.
You had the Pizza Hut kid's birthday, and they brought all the pizza you wanted, and there was the ice cream machine. If you remember the ice cream machine, right? And yes, right. We want to do stories about my childhood poverty, Ross. I've got 1,000 of them, and much worse than this.
No, but what I love is the idea that you've obviously retained this as a core functional memory in my head.
That's been repressed, churned around a little bit, and now it's somehow a pleasant memory.
Rose tinted is the word.
And now looking back, it's like, wait a minute. We used to, the chef used to come over to our house
look
quite
like
a lot.
Dad?
Yeah. Like Santa.
like a big fucking chimney flute on his head.
I can tell you why that is false, because my dad was never there that much.
Okay, fair enough.
My dad wasn't hanging around long enough to cook a pizza.
Okay, that's another.
Just
your
one
dark.
with the thick mustache. Hey, Dave, you want to make a pizza? Huh?
I feel bad. I feel this is a.
I think you're actually framing this as like someone's a pretty cool dad if they're like, poor, but they're making the effort to dress up. And
Yeah.
I think your mum made a
Pizza
real
Hut employee.
effort.
I think that's.
Yeah.
I think that's a level at which my dad can only aspire to.
God, Dave,
It's
do you know what
adorable.
this is? You know, this is a lesson. Never ever be vulnerable with us. Like, not even for a second, because we will just ruthlessly.
Oh, we're horrible people,
Fuck
guys.
me,
I didn't.
I actually
think that
feel
was
quite
that bad a
guilty.
Story. There's lots of stories. There's lots of stories where you do the thing where I don't know if you guys do this, or whether my family is just like uniquely damaged. Where you're telling like a treasured childhood story that you think of as like really funny, or like, oh, that was a really fun memory that I really enjoyed, or something you're really proud of,
Yeah.
and you tell it, and then the other person's like
Horrified.
and you're like
There was a
halfway
Reddit-
through the story, you sort of notice, you're like, this isn't going across like
This isn't
as funny
landing.
as I thought it was in my head.
Why
And
are
then
they
they sort of
reacting
sit
weird?
And they sort of look at you like what we tend to refer to it as is the "is it too late to call childline" sort of look that they do, and you're like, okay, right, I'm gonna have to reassess, especially when you were young. I was younger. Like I really have to reassess your like foundational knowledge and be like, is that not okay? Is that not normal?
Yep. You have to you have to ease into the crazy. It's the real teller is when the person you're talking to then like puts their hand on your lap and be like, "Is everything okay?"
And you're like, no, I haven't even gotten to the funny bit yet. Wait. And you're like,
And then
How do
you're
you
like,
react
I'm
like
not,
this?"
I'm not crazy. I'm not. This is normal.
Okay, this is part of my charming, earthy backstory, and it's all, it's absolutely everything's fine. Everything's fine. I said it's fine.
no, history tells me generally just don't tell anyone anything about you, because you're always going to hit that like.
This is a thing that I do. Sometimes I'm like, especially, oh hi, how you doing? Yeah, good. Yeah, but how's it going on? Yeah, fine.
And that's the end.
Yeah, I'm like,
And that's the end.
and sometimes I'm not intentionally in this, but I do feel like, wow, is he an emotionless, distant monster? Does he like how are the kids? Oh yeah, they're good. I mean, don't get any more. No. Oh, sorry.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, you are, Sam.
What are you writing a book?
Yeah. You trying to dox me? Who the fuck are you?
My favorite response to "Are you all right?" is you just say in a very neutral tone that you're surviving, and then you leave, and then everyone's left in the like that weird like, oh, that's a funny. Oh, is he joking or
Someone
like
said-
is he
someone said to
okay?
me-
But then they don't know you well enough to be like,
Yeah.
oh, and then like, I love the awkward laugh. That
Someone said to me today, I asked them, "Oh, all right, work. How you getting on?" And not a colleague, someone that I was in a meeting with, and they went, "Middling to fair." I was like, "Oh," it's like, well, and my response was, "Well, that's all you can ask for, really, isn't it?"
makes note. I think this guy's gonna throw himself out. That's a real fucking danger
Middling
response. That's like I'm gonna call HR because they're probably gonna need to clean this guy's desk out next week.
Yeah, because one of my favorite things.
Middling to fair.
It's
That is literally
That's
medium
worse
to
than what I
medium.
said.
That's middling to middling. What he just said.
Yeah.
Like,
what
fair to fair. Middling to
What-
middling.
That's
one of the
somebody. That's
things-
somebody who's doing so badly they can't even bring themselves to lie that they're doing well.
Yeah. which is the foundation. I think the important foundation of our culture is. Well, I love it. I absolutely love it. Is someone says, oh, "Hey, how you doing?" and you say, my response every single time is, "Yeah, not bad." It's like I turn and I've done this with Americans, and Americans do not fucking understand it. They do not understand that you say not bad. They're like, "Oh, what's the matter?" I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm good."
How long you got?
No, but there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just not
I-
bad. Like it's just it's
Well,
the
Sam,
perfect mindset.
let's not make any crazy statements like there's nothing the matter. Come on, let's not
Okay,
let's not be crazy.
There's nothing I'm willing to share you, work colleague. I'm
That's
not
fair,
bad.
that's fair.
That's as
I
far
think
as
we
I'm
talked
gonna
about this. I think we talked about this before, but Americans are, and like, you know, to be fair, it's a strength really, but to a fault, they are notoriously positive. So when you say something like "not bad" or "oh my god, what happened?" You're like, no, just fucking relax, will you? All right. Just, I remember when I was in secondary school, and I don't know if you guys heard this. Have you ever heard of the Young Americans? No, moving on.
no.
All right, next.
So I imagine there's people coming in from America who are young.
Yeah, they come over like, and they do like, you know, all this song and dance and yeah, dancing and jumping. And they come for the dance. Literally, and like
They come over
like,
to the school, Ross. Like, is this
Yeah.
something that was when you
no,
were?
no,
when you were
yeah,
a
not my
kid?
house. Yeah, we
No,
wouldn't have
I'm
lasted
just
long
gonna,
there. I'll
I'm
tell
just
you
gonna
that.
like find out what the because we'll have had
The
something
setting.
similar. You
Yeah.
know, like fucking people coming over to the school.
Cultural imperialism. Yeah, we had to spread the good word about capitalism.
But anyway, so we're all in the assembly and they're putting on the show. Yeah, yeah, come on, guys. And basically, so the younger kids were sat, and then like it was me and like other people, and we were just like stood up and like, what is going on? But like we'd be stood there, like, you know, and like it's a common thing. I don't know what like they do it in England, but basically we
Yeah.
just stood there looking at them with their arms folded. Now I've since come to learn that people take that quite negatively, and so like, yeah, come on, guys.
It's an aggressive
And then-
stance, isn't it?
Well,
Well, you're blocking, aren't you? You're
apparently,
literally
that's it.
blocking.
Like, I want no part of this. I felt, you know, I felt like Ron Swanson. No. But I remember then, like, you
And
know,
that's exactly what it is. And they
this-
know that. They know that that's what it is.
Yeah, but well, see, this is the thing. They know that what it is, and so when they see Americans do it, they come over and they're like, "Hey, come on, guys, be positive," and then they break them down. But I remember this poor girl, and like, again, this wasn't done via maliciousness. But she came down the stairs of the stage. She saw me and my cousin sort of stood there with her arms folded, and she comes over. Lovely girl, and like she goes, "Come on, guys, hands in the air!" And, like, no word of a lie, like just like I turned my head to look at her. No, no thanks. And then she was taught, like, after the show, like she gave it a good like 3 minutes, like trying to move her arms and stuff. Come on, clap it! Stop it. Stop.
Oh my god.
And then, but like again, so like knowing what I know, I'm like, oh man, that's really mean. But back then I was like, why is she?
No, it's not
Trying-
mean.
No.
You shouldn't
But-
like stop. Let's stop trying to force fucking people to have to
Don't
conform
force
to emotional.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Fuck,
But then,
fuck
like,
that
and then after, and she was a nice girl. She was talking. She's like, "Oh, you guys, you know, you seem very negative." I'm like, "Oh, why?" She goes, "Because your arms are folded." Like, well, I needed something to do with my arms.
Where do I put my arms?
Well, I'm not sure to do with my arms. But like,
shit. Oh no. Yeah, is that it? Is that it? That's it. That's it. Do that.
Is this what you want from
This.
me?
No, this. Cup it. Okay, cup it.
but like, I didn't understand. Like, I just thought she was being really annoying, and like in retrospect, it's like, oh, she's just trying. She thought we were being a bit negative, a bit
someone
shy,
who's
that sort of thing.
Positive
Obviously-
who wants to spread their positivity on everyone else. Disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, it is disgusting, but again, like they take it as, oh, these, because they see it as, oh, these guys are shy, and you know, and they really want to come out of their shell, and like, nah, sweetheart, this ain't one of them stories. this isn't how it ends.
Just
for
leave
you, I'm
everyone
afraid.
alone. Do you want to dance? No, I'm fine. Thanks.
No, I'd rather
So,
not. Thanks.
How about we just leave it there?
Oh, school was a nightmare.
Let's talk about Uncle Buck. Let's channel this fantastic energy into Uncle Buck.
Right,
Let's do
let me
it.
get tie my ass up. I'm recording. Right,
Yeah, we need to do Audacity, don't we, Sam?
22? 22?
Stand by.
5 seconds?
Yeah, good.
21:01.
That's the one. Yeah, 20, not 10 o'clock.
22. Yeah, it was 9 o'clock and then it's 10 o'clock, right? There's no minutes in Ross's fucking.
We lost an hour. That's what this podcast is. It's a loss of an hour. Right.
Sometimes more. Sometimes more.
Oh,
than
shit. I don't have a single funny thing to say.
Sam, fucking, what else is new, buddy? 3 years of that, I'm afraid.
Fuck you. Oh, actually, I do, because this film was dripping with hilarious lines.
Okay.
Well, that's just some deep concentration.
It's not going to be worth it. Once, as usual, it's going to be a massive disappointment when we do the intros.
I need to go back in because there was loads of. Let's go back all the way back into WhatsApp. God damn it!
A lot of the funniest lines in this are kind of like a back and forth. It's
Yes.
like an exchange that's funny, rather than like, individual lines.
Oh, I've gone too far. I've gone too far. Oh, not far enough.
Oh my God, Sam.
This better be good worth it, Sam.
It's not worth
Honestly.
it. I don't have
If anything, any material.
any material. Right. Okay, fine, go. I can hear my voice in someone's headphones.
Is it me?
History suggests so.
Let me check the old settings. What are we doing? No, it shouldn't be me. Tell you what, I'll mute myself, and if you can still hear it, Sam, then it's Ross.
I think so. Can you hear it? I think Ross turned his headphone down.
There.
So salty. Right, you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Imaginary Movie Podcast. A podcast. We watch a movie and then we talk about it. My name is David, and are you single and older than most single people are? Do people frequently comment upon that? Do you have a vague job that some might describe as not a job? Are you frequently not invited to family events? You may be an Uncle Buck.
That's like, are you describing, is this Uncle Dave? Is this the show Uncle
Fucking
Dave?
apparently.
Ooh, a little bit too much self-reflection on this movie,
no.
Dave. Sorry about that.
Not likable enough.
Yeah. My name's Sam, and in the field of live local entertainment, I'm a god.
And I'm Ross. Hey, nice podcast there. Who is that? Is that Real Talk? I'm just kidding. I know my podcasts.
Nice.
So
Welcome.
this week, we watched an actual fun movie which we enjoyed. I'm going to make
thank
that statement
God.
for all of us, despite the fact I
Mate,
don't. Thank God. We are out of the dark times. January is over.
That Omaha Beach of movies.
this was our personal Vietnam, watching 3 box office bombs. Counting, listener.
Absolutely.
We did it for you, you ungrateful pricks.
So we watched the John Candy and John Hughes and Macaulay Culkin movie, Uncle Buck from 1989.
Uncle Buck. Who? Anyone not seen this before?
Me, I'd seen clips, hadn't seen the whole thing start to finish.
I love it. I love it. This is a uniquely internet thing, isn't it? Like where when we did You Good Men. Recently, I don't think you were on for us. That was a movie I knew from clips and from memes, but I'd never seen. And I always enjoy like
osmosis.
Yeah, when you know the movie, but you're like, that's a movie. That's not just a bunch of clips on the internet.
Well, or it's the classic. Hey, I now understand this Simpsons episode, as we saw with the
It's a Wonderful Life.
No, well, that's
Yeah.
well, the Martin Scorsese episode, a film,
Cape Fear.
Cape Fear, which which actually the one, the Sideshow Bob episode is just an oddly specific reenactment of that entire movie, like just a couple of years after it came out. Like
Quite
weird.
lazy, really. Yeah.
Just lines from the fucking movie. Like there's nothing new, but because we didn't know that, because we hadn't seen Cape Fear in the late 90s or early 2000s, it was funny. And Uncle Buck is a little bit like that, although I don't think this film is perhaps. Do you think this film sits in the cultural memory as much as some of the other movies mentioned? That I'm not sure it does.
No, absolutely not. That's not to say
this
like
is sort of like-
it's not that it's a bad movie. It's just that does it strike enough chords or make enough impact to have that much of an impression? I wouldn't say it does.
Dave, you got any thoughts?
It's not iconic. Sorry.
It's popping tonight. Absolutely popping.
Let me talk. This movie,
We're trying to get talk.
Please.
For me, is a real childhood classic that we used to watch a lot. But it's another one of those ones where it's kind of like Nicola in Cop and a Half. Like it doesn't really make sense because this wasn't like an enormously huge movie. It's not like one of the more iconic John Candy movies. It's certainly not one of the more iconic John Hughes movies or one of the more iconic Macaulay Culkin movies. Like all of these people are very good in this movie and the making of it and things, but it's like it's kind of at that midpoint of all of their careers, I think, or early for Culkin, I guess. But like it's not the one any one of these people is going to be remembered for. Which I don't think detracts from it, but it certainly maybe goes some other way to explaining like why this is maybe not a universal movie that most people have seen.
It's kind of, I think it's quite small scale as well, isn't it? Like this is a wonderfully low stakes movie, and I think we tend to like those films. I think we tend to like the little slice of life that you get to enjoy from a movie where an uncle is looking after some children. Like that's the basic,
and it has a nice ending.
It's fun.
Yeah, that's an important, especially with that synopsis you've given there. So.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, thanks, IMDb. It's not particularly trying to say that much either. Like we do, there is a smattering of John Hughes sentiment that runs through this, but we're not touching the Breakfast Club level, where it's trying to say something.
It's very John Hughesy in that these are all like fucking non-affluent white people problems. Everyone in this movie has.
Fuck me.
Like what are the three plots in this movie? So you've got Uncle Buck is babysitting the two children. Is like your sort of that's your setup. But then it becomes more of the B plot throughout. You've got the teenage daughter who doesn't respect authority until her Uncle Buck beats the shit out of her underage boyfriend. That's a hilarious piece of child abuse.
That's exactly
and then the third storyline is kind of like, and I think this is the most engaging one, mostly because it's John Candy. It's John Candy's like maybe like actually coming to terms with shouldering some responsibility as a 40-year-old man. And do you know what I mean? Like moving forward with his relationship and like maybe trying to reintegrate himself with his family. And that's actually quite like that's the real John Hughes, like the nice bit of growth we have in this movie. And I think it maybe gets the most time. But you know, none of it's earth shattering. Like the parents are just non-characters in this movie. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Off the top. And terrible parents.
Yeah. Oh, big time. I'll tell you what though, and this is what I would have liked to see more, because like it sort of ties in with all the three things you mentioned there, Dave. But like the mother seems to have a real like disgust or disdain. I wouldn't say hatred, but disdain for Uncle Buck, and it goes beyond like. Oh, the guy's a general fuck up, but it goes like, you know,
We've all got
folding a
in-laws we don't like.
Yeah, don't like. We don't fucking like cut him out of like wedding photos if he's like the best man and all. And you feel like there's more going on there, like that phone call conversation they have as well, where you know the daughter is shit talking Uncle Buck, and you know they're having a chat, and like she sort of breaks down and she says like, "Oh, I'm really glad you're there with them." And you're like, "What is going on here?" This I would have liked to have seen more of. Delve deeper into that.
It feels like there's
honestly, it's just that I think this woman only knows Uncle Buck as Buck as this. Do you know what I mean? This unreliable drunk, who just like the sort of person who comes over for the weekend, like eats all the food in your fridge, breaks at least 6 things in your house, like passes out and pisses himself on the sofa, and then fucking like leaves without saying anything. Like that is the kind of that's kind of the
Uncle Dave
setup. That's kind of the setup.
There was a race there,
and I know because I've literally done this, and we'll tell the story in a minute because it's really funny about how I made a horrible first impression. But like, I think that's the thing, is that this guy has spent 20 years that these two have been married, and he's just like, he probably fucked up the stag do, like maybe, you know, got the husband in a fight or something and he had a black eye at the wedding. It's that sort of stuff where this woman has just had enough. He came over when they moved into the house and set fire to the barbecue. I think she's just like, he is going to burn my house down and my children are going to be in the hospital. That's where she's coming out.
I think what we do need, I think perhaps to Russ's point though, is like, actually, can we see a bit more of this? Can we see him as a total fuck up and a loser? Because what we get is, like, he's
lovable klutz, you know what I mean?
Because he's John Candy, and I think there's it feels to me like one, you know, my impression of this film was really fun, and I've not seen it in a long time. Really fun, but like a lightweight movie. As I've said, it's not really plumbing the depths of the human experience in a way that perhaps a John Candy movie could have done earlier in his career. Maybe we could have got into, why is this guy avoiding responsibility? Because at the end he says to Shanice or whatever it is, why did we wait so long to do this? Like, and
we should have done this a long time ago.
The implication is they're going to go start a family, but actually it's for the character piece, it'd be interesting to explore why John Candy is the way he is, and then get to go on a journey with him where he starts to realize actually what is missing. Now, the opposite side is maybe this film's about how people like Dave are living their best life and they get a slice of responsibility, and then the fucking losers who have to travel around with these shitty fucking kids who are just so rude to their parents and chat back, maybe they're the real suckers. Maybe
they fucking are. You are. That's correct. So I sort of have. Let me tell the story because it's funny, and Ross wasn't there, so this is a story time for Ross. I would say probably like the first time I properly met Sam's wife was
first
when
and only. No,
I know, but fucking last time
many times. Nicola's always away when you're here. I don't know why. She's always busy.
No, literally. I made possibly the worst first impression you could possibly imagine. So we kept meeting. Me and Joe came up for Sam's birthday and didn't know we were coming, and a few of his other friends came. I say a few, I mean all of his other friends. There were 4 of us.
Yeah.
2 more. Ross.
We weren't really.
Oh God! Stop! You're making it worse.
Anyway, I think I'm conflating 2 stories. So I'll just tell
the incident, Ross. It was the incident.
The incident. We came up to Sam's flat. We were all there for New Year's. We started drinking, which is always a fucking bad start to the story, right? And like it's Scotland and New Year's a big thing in Scotland, whereas like I don't know if it's in Ireland, Ross, but like so we went out to a bar, right? Fucking mistake numero uno.
Yeah. Terrible.
Sam's friend, who will remain nameless because I think he listens to the podcast, started buying shots in the bar.
God.
Is this
And the
Andy?
short
Is this
version,
Andy?
Corey.
Corey, right? Yeah. I think
The
he does.
short
listen.
version is that
I
I
won't name
got
him. I'll name him.
absolutely fucking shit-faced. I do not remember leaving the bar. We went
Oh, we
back. to
did. I
Sam's
did.
flat.
Hold on. Let's just
You can take over as you remember.
Fill in
this
this
bit.
gap.
It was the moment we were like, Dave's a laugh, isn't he? And then we were all like, look, yeah, and then it kind of slowly starts to dawn on us. What is he doing over there? And you were chatting to some woman who quite had next to her quite a big looking guy who wasn't looking that happy about the whole situation. And at that point, we're like, shit, we better get Dave. He's gonna do something silly now. So then we had to hurry you out. And that's the end of this advert. Continue.
This ad is brought to you by Aftershock. Aftershock. It's not for everyone.
So then we had to walk home. At which point, apparently, I fell over. But like, Sam's a big muscular guy. Into
I'm
Sam,
renowned for it. I'm renowned for it.
So I fell over sideways into Sam, and then Sam and I both went off the footpath over this little wall and like down this little slope. And there's some photos of me because I was just insensible and incapable of getting myself up. There's some photos of me just lying on top of Sam while presumably he's screaming at his friends and wife to like get me off him.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
I then tried to go to the toilet in one of the bedrooms, I believe.
In a cupboard. It was
A cupboard. And basically had to be put to bed in the kitchen.
This is some excellent disclosure that I'm going to feed directly into the AI model of you that I'm developing.
Dave,
Hey, I own the mistakes I've made. It was one of the worst first impressions I've ever made on anyone in my entire life.
No, I
get
think
your
it was
fucking act together, man. Jesus
it was quite
Christ.
fun.
Apparently, I will say this was over 10 years ago.
Yeah, when you were in your
Do you remember when you
20s.
went missing?
No, I don't actually, as it happens. I think that's like an integral part of the story.
Now we come to our next segment. It's story time with Ross.
Let's talk about Uncle Buck. Let's talk about how David used to drink a lot. Fantastic.
What a retro. Well, honestly,
You know what? Let's save that for another episode because that's a good story. And
Well, some
Dave,
people learn very early, right, that you're not Superman and you can't just drink like the North Sea's worth of spirits and be fine.
Mhm.
And it took me
When-
a little bit
when do you
longer
learn
to
that?
figure that out.
Yeah.
I
Still
have
going?
learned that now. I am very
Francis
much on the
and
side of like
Steve.
no, I would not like a whiskey or a fucking vodka Red Bull or something. Thank you. I will have another beer.
Fucking hell.
exactly.
bring
Ross.
it
I'm like, no, you know what? I don't want any of that horrible shit. I went
Just-
out with
I
we will get
can't
off
handle-
this.
Go on.
I can't.
I went out with
sympathise,
Harry
though.
and Rebecca a few weeks ago, and they were like, "Oh, let's get cocktails." I was like, "No, I'll have a beer. No, I'm not doing cocktails.
£7 for
Fucking
what?
1 in the morning."
The thing is though, once you get the flavor, you know what I mean. I'm not saying the flavor particularly, but once you're like, oh, these are going down really well, and then you think and go on because and this is where I do sympathize because you can be on beer and like you're having great fun. The next thing, yeah, Jägerbomb. I think that'd be just the thing to quench my thirst. I think that is just the ticket.
Famously refreshing.
Famously refreshing. No one ever made a poor decision after ordering a round of Jaeger bombs.
Oh, that Red Bull's quite bubbly, isn't it? Yes, it is.
That goes down good.
Cut to the next
what
one.
I'm saying-
Right, Dave, I've got this.
Is that
to
I
bring
can totally empathize with the book character and
Yes.
how he's treated by this family. And it's not unreasonable, and he's not a bad guy, but like quite reasonably, they're like, maybe let's not have this guy watch our
Right.
children.
But I think actually that this is a really Uncle Buck is. I think it's a really positive portrayal of this type of person. Like he's not pissing in closets. He's not dragging friends over.
Don't fucking bring Uncle Buck down to your level.
over Mason. But seriously, when he gets the call from his brother, who he hasn't spoken to in many years. It's also like 2:00 in the morning, and he wakes, and it's he kind of takes it. He wakes up and immediately he's like, "Oh yeah, no problem. What's the kids?" He even remembers their names, and is like, "Yeah, close enough."
He remembers the number of them.
Yeah,
As
and
in
he
how many
goes,
there are.
and he goes from his hovel, and as the film portrays it, which actually looks like quite a nice little apartment he's got there, and
Nice little
then
studio flat, yeah.
and then arrives at the house and is a bit boorish, but they didn't tell him where to go. But it's like, actually, and this is where I think we could have been a little bit meaner if it wasn't John Candy, if it was someone who we were willing to laugh at a little bit rather than laugh with. I think you
There's
could
a lot
have been
of the casting for this movie is, I think, one of the worst I've ever seen on IMDb for like 50,000 people. Anyone who was an actor in a movie in this era, it was like apparently up for this role. It's ridiculous.
yeah.
Oh, the role of Uncle Buck.
Yeah, but I think if you cast like I'm trying to think of even John Goodman, like he's not going to be as likable or as personable as John Candy,
Yeah.
and he's going to turn up and be, and it's like you're going to be like, oh, actually, this is an unwashed drunk that you've just invited into your house. Whereas I think because it's John Candy, that maybe takes the edge off that a little bit. Like you said, Sam, it would be nastier if it was.
He's disarming, isn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what I think maybe the film needs is for John Candy to be a little bit more of a loser, and because the bit he says, "I've got golf clubs in my car. I can go play golf whenever I want." and the point of that, I think the film is trying to say, oh yeah, this guy is he's kind of self-fulfilling, but I'm sitting there looking, going, oh my god, John Candy, you can do whatever you want, whenever you want it.
Tell me how late you sleep in, John.
Oh my god, like this is my dream. And Dave's sitting there, the smug fucking prick, but nodding away because he's got golf clubs in his car and he can go play golf whenever he wants, and I've got to sit and pick up fucking 10 times of shit.
Pissing into his coffee mug sat behind him.
God damn it. Up at 5 o'clock in the morning every fucking day.
These are the mistakes that you have chosen to make.
This is the mistakes we've chosen.
God.
What do we get? What do we get in return? What do we get in return? We get Tia in this movie, the sarcastic little fucking shit who sits. I mean, I love the performance. I love how relentless she is. I love how they made her as evil as possible, and I think that's such a good choice. But it would be funnier if they also went for a loser John Candy who genuinely deserved to be mocked and destroyed by this 16-year-old girl. Like,
also,
well, then you could have
someone who could be like, who's seen to be sort of like maybe affected by the things she says, because anything she says rolls off his fucking.
He's a
back.
great parent, isn't he?
He takes it. Like, no
he is a surprisingly good parent for someone who
listens, patient,
and also doesn't take any shit, and is like, well, you can try and do that, but I'm a grown up, so I don't care. Like, I think Dave
pick you up in my role, but you're like, brilliant! What a brilliant threat as a parent. Lovely.
Yeah, Dave. I no judgment at all, but I fear that my two kids will be running rings around you in about an hour, maybe an hour and 10, and after that point, you'd be like, well, that's it. I'm gone. Here you go. Here's some knives. Enjoy. Have fun.
Great.
Fucking Hunger Games.
Yeah, Dave style. I do think that maybe we could have because we only have the one moment where Uncle Buck has to two really, because he kind of forestalls her making any poor decisions when he picks her up from that party, and then the initial one, not the one at the end, and then at the end when she sort of runs off, you kind of have a bit of he's got to actually step in and actually be a parental figure. They could maybe have had more of that and more you know what I mean? Maybe a different movie would have been that silly sort of oh, boy, I don't know how to look after kids, and we don't really get much of that, to be honest.
It's no 3 Men and a Baby, is it? Previous episode.
Exactly, yeah. It's Ted Danson, not knowing how to raise a child.
Yeah, that film was so much fun. It is bringing back to me as well, which I just the whole fucking sexual assault plotline that's running through this charming kids movie. Because I was telling Callum about it, and because he saw the pit and he was like, oh, isn't that the guy from Home Alone? I was like, that is, it's right, yeah, he's in. That was a good memory. And obviously, that's the same character in my head.
Not
That's just
Macaulay Culkin.
Well, no, but he saw that Macaulay Culkin is it as well. Like,
Yeah.
and you know, he asked, "Is that what you're watching for the podcast?" I was like, "Yeah, because I'm really cool." He's like, "You are cool, Dad. Nice one. And you've got a podcast.
Oh God,
nice
Sam.
one.
Well,
nice one, Dad."
He's looking after something, Sam. He's got a birthday coming up.
No, he didn't say any of that. But
wait until he knows better. Like, oh my God, my dad's such a fucking dork.
he says,
I'm
like,
just a dweeby, nerdy dork.
He's-
God, Dad, it's just so uncool.
I'm on the. He says, I go, I'm a YouTuber. And he's like, no, you're not. No, you're not a YouTuber. I'm like, comment, subscribe. Link in the description. Smash that like button. And he fucking hates it. And then I go on YouTube and here we are.
What's up, guys?
What's and then
Boy, Sam.
And then one of his friends the other day, who doesn't know about my podcast, said, he said, I swear to God, he said this. He said, "Are you a YouTuber?" And I was like, fuck it. For a second, I thought I'd been outed. I was like, shh. And he says, "Yeah, you look like the guy who does like Minecraft videos." Like, "Fear, it's not me. I just look. I think I'm
you
English."
just saw like every other nerd making videos on YouTube.
You look like a guy who does Minecraft videos. It's the physique that's tricking you. I see. Yes.
Yes, that's right.
I
look like I sat hunched over a desk in the dark a lot.
Yeah. Hey, that's a very accurate assessment. But but I do think that if we, I lost my train of thought there. If we got a little bit more of the nastiness, a little bit more of the ability to actually laugh at John Candy, we would maybe be able to explore a little bit more in this film from his point of view. Because otherwise,
yeah, definitely,
it's just a bit light, but it's also at the same time incredibly dark because we have the whole sexual assault stuff. Like, that's the bit where you're like,
well, it kind of like
I'm also thinking
towards...
like, fair dues for showing that without pulling any punches in terms of like just suggesting things, like for actually just showing like and this is what it's like, because maybe I'm sounding pretentious, but that seems like it's years or even decades ahead of its time, where before even like this type of assault is correctly portrayed, because you hear her say stop, please stop, and he's like, oh, all that there sort of, I'm not going to repeat it, but all of their sort of bullshit, and you're like, it's a comedy movie, but it gets that in there.
Yeah,
like this is what some parents try and protect their kids from,
especially when it's earlier before where he's like, he's being quite forceful, and she's saying, I'm not ready, and he's like, oh, come on, are you ever going to be ready, and all this type of
controlling
stuff, like, the type of shit that lecherous teenage boys do. Again, I think you're right. It is maybe a slightly more advanced commentary than you'd expect from 1990 or whatever this is.
But I do think it's a huge part of why this movie is maybe a little bit discordant, because in the rest of the movie, John Candy's kind of the hero, and I really love the plot with the two little kids in this movie. Generally, I say plot, it's a real non-plot, but like every scene where it's just John Candy interacting with them, where you've got, the best child actor, I'm not sure that's even in question, Macaulay Culkin, and the girl whose name I haven't got, she's also excellent in this movie. I think she's as good as Culkin in this, where they just kind of steal every scene, the bit with all the questions, like my dad's brother, right? And like the delivery there is just, it's just fantastic, and it's those sort of scenes I enjoy. Yeah,
Gabby Hoffman is the girl.
She's really good. I'm kind of surprised we didn't get more like Macaulay Culkin and her pairings in movies, because that seemed to me to be like an absolute home run.
Yeah, they were winners, weren't they? She go on, Ross. Sorry.
I was just going to say, speaking about, just before we move on completely, because just going back to the teenage daughter as well, and speaking of things we wanted to see more of, I wanted to see more of why there's such a poor sort of relationship between her and her mother. Like you get something at the start, like that they moved or something, and she's unhappy about that. But like usually with this sort of thing, like maybe the mother would maybe be a bit nasty back to her, sort of thing. But the mother is like getting railroaded by this teenage daughter, and maybe that's what. Maybe not looking forward to our kids becoming teenagers, but maybe that's what.
But there's an element of truth in that. I know you don't have a sister, Ross. I do. I have an older sister who was a fucking arsehole for about 10 years. And she wouldn't blame me for saying that. Her and my mum, like, get along now, But when
Yeah.
when we were kids, like my mum once threw a mug at her, like it just shattered off the wall, just next to her head. Like honestly,
I'm just
used
going to
to
remind you we are
scream
live
at
on the
each
internet.
other.
Just
It's fine.
This is one of those stories you're like, oh, should I have told that?
It didn't
But
hit
it's
her.
okay
What I'm
because
sa-
my
what I'm
grandfather
saying is,
shot
I
at one of
think
my
that-
brothers. So
That's worse, Ross. We'll circle back round to
make it you.
fucking-
Oh yeah, well, no problem.
on the Gaza Strip where Ross grew up.
I
But
mean,
think
close,
that
similar.
There is an element of truth. There is an element of truth in teenage daughters not getting along with mothers. I think that's something that we
Yeah.
see quite a lot in movies and TV
Yes.
because it's so common. I think in that clash is much more. Do you know what I mean? It's much more common than dads and sons, and because dads and sons are traditionally so much more distant than mothers
Yeah.
and daughters.
Yeah,
Mm.
but
So that felt
but-
quite real to me in that.
It
And
did
then
feel
you
real. I
add
just
into
wanted
the
a bit
fact
more
that she's like-
explanation.
yeah,
Well,
but
she-
to
she does- you get
Ross's
some of it. She's
to Ross's point
irritated.
though, right? To Ross's point, I don't think the film actually shows us though, does it? We have to
I think it
infer.
does
I
tell
think
us
we have to infer quite a lot.
because
why-
she says to the mother, like, basically, she says to her, "Why are you never here?" You know, she just, and then she just doesn't like the fact that they've moved. They've moved from Indianapolis, and she's presumably a couple of years ago when she was a teenager. They've left all of her friends behind. That seems to be the seed of like, and she blames the mum for that for some reason, which we
Mm.
don't really get into. I'll warrant.
But it's a minor point, isn't it? But yeah,
Yeah.
we're all agreeing. We're very agreeable. It's the dad's a bit of a non-character as well, and I think you
Oh,
could
the
have
dad,
made
the dad didn't need to be in the fucking movie,
No,
to be
no.
honest.
but you could have
Who?
done you could have done a little bit more again, just to give us to make the movie more in the early stages anyway, more about the kids. And this is where I think it's a strange choice that we have such an explicit plot line of the kind of, you know, sexual harassment type stuff from a boyfriend, and also the film's quite nasty in some places, and I just think this is a weird placement, a weird tonal thing going on, where this could be a Sunday afternoon kids movie that the whole family can enjoy, where yes, the boyfriend's a dick, but he's not necessarily that much, or it's a bit more subtle or whatever else. We also perhaps lose then the Uncle Buck being more of a loser type thing, but it to me it feels a little bit discordant, this movie. And if you look at the reviews, the contemporary reviews from the time, it's pretty much saying that, like an uncomfortable undercurrent in the material is what Ebert said. And I think there is something right about that. I think this is why it's not held up as a cultural touchstone in the way that some of the other Hughes movies
It doesn't
obviously
quite
are.
blunt the edges of, like, let's look at The Breakfast Club. It's a movie I presume you've both seen.
Nope.
Right, I presume.
What,
Right, so
how?
Movies!
Let's not make this. Has Ross even seen a movie ever? Did you even
Yes,
watch
Sam.
this movie, Ross? Have you even got eyes?
I was doubting that when we had to delay, and Ross was very fast to say, "Oh no, it's fine, it's fine," and I'm like, "Ross, do you need an extra couple of days?"
I had actually watched it Monday night. You ignorant slut.
Anyway,
Such a liar.
let's not do the whole recrimination thing. Moratorium on that. Like, The Breakfast Club is the John Hughes, outside of Home Alone, is the John Hughes movie.
Yes.
Home Alone that's Chris Columbus. Anyway,
John Hughes wrote it. Yeah.
Right. So The Breakfast Club is the John Hughes movie, and that's about a bunch of teenagers. Ross, I'm sure you're aware of it, even if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, they go all have breakfast together. Yeah.
Whatever.
Wow.
Right, but there's pathos
Is that
in
a
that
fake?
movie.
Is that a fake out? Are you faking us out, Ross? Is
Now, that's a movie with some real, like, nasty shit in it. Like, similar to this movie, you've got the kid who brought a gun to school, the girl who tried to kill
I
herself.
definitely haven't seen this.
Yeah, the guy who
Dave, my favorite one. My favorite one is the alien. Do you remember the alien? And
You're taking the piss.
I'm not. Have you seen it? You haven't seen the film. There's the bit with the alien.
But I'm not a fucking idiot. Sam.
No, it's
Come
the
on.
teacher.
No, I know
the
you're trying to
teacher's
make
an
fun of Ross here,
alien.
Sam, but I'm also trying to, like, make a point about the movie that we're talking
Sorry, go
about.
on.
So maybe we could do that instead of, like, this really fucking bland
you want?
alien bit that you're doing?
What do you want? Do you want movie analysis or do you want my tepid humour? Go.
Movie analysis, right? So in the Breakfast Club, we have all of this dark stuff. Like one of the guys is being like, his dad is abusive, and that's a thing in the movie. But we don't look at that movie and say it's nasty and it's this, that, and the other. Whereas I think actually in a lot of ways that movie is more nasty than this movie. But what they do is they take every single one of those things and they kind of like he makes it all right within the script. Every one of these things has a moment to like
soften it.
And whereas this movie maybe doesn't have that. Like we don't really ever get like a bit of Planes, Trains and Automobiles, another John Candy movie where we kind of have a bit of redemption for John Candy's character and a bit more backstory where, the wife's died and that maybe explains some of his eccentricities. We don't get that in this movie. We just kind of get this fully formed character who exists. So we don't get the like, this is why he is the way he is and maybe let's fix that. And that's that classic John Hughes, like feel good, warm, like nice ending.
But at the same time, he is just incredibly likable. And let's just take a moment to talk about how, like, is there a better everyman or was there a better everyman character actor than John Hughes, than John Candy? Because you think about him in Planes, Trains and Automobiles,
Planes, Trains and Automobiles at Home Alone.
Very good, well done. But him in Home Alone is one of my best. He's one of my favorite. It's just such an amazing, like, snapshot of who that character is, even though he's only in it for 3 or 4 minutes or whatever, his total screen time. The bit when he says, I left my son somewhere once. He was at a funeral parlor. Yeah, he started talking again after a few days. Like that is just everything you need to know, and also that he's well-meaning. He's we'll take you, we'll poker. All of that, the characterization that he manages to bring down, I think is exquisite, and it's kind of the same character in every movie.
He's got this kind of like indelible charisma about him, even when
my God,
like Cool Runnings is a film where he's playing like someone who's like quite inarguably an arsehole, like this fat washed up loser who cheated at the Olympics and like doesn't want to be involved, but it's still John Candy, so you like him. And I think there are very few actors who can do that. There are a lot of actors who can do despicable. There are a lot of actors who can do lovable and like likable, but it's that doing both at the same time. You're written as this despicable character. Like in this, he's kind of like written as a stupid, lazy slob who gambles and doesn't have a job and won't commit to his girlfriend and avoids his family. And that's all there. They state all of that, but then it's John Candy. So you kind of like, it's fine, And I think there are very few actors who manage that. It makes me sad every time I watch a John Candy movie.
Yes,
because he died so young.
Yeah,
and he was, by all accounts, like quite a, a flawed individual, like a lot of his characters. He was a charismatic, funny, likable, talented person who had a lot of demons, and I think maybe in every single performance, every role he took seems to be like that character, and maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, there's a melancholy to him, isn't there? That is, I think, is in every character that he plays, and a bit like John Williams, not John Williams.
Fuck. Too many Johns. John Hughes,
Robin Williams.
Robin Williams. I see how you connected those dots there.
Not even close.
I'm having my own personal dementia right now. A bit like Robin Williams.
An excellent comparison, Sam.
Who is a funny guy, and I mean he's larger than life. But there's the sadness there is obviously deep, and then with everything that happened with him, it's like it's affecting, and I think it actually though makes critically analyzing a movie like this quite difficult, because you're wrapped up in the emotion of John Candy not being alive, and like the questions of where would he be now if he was still, like, what would he be doing, what would his role in the cinema scape be, a bit like
do you know what's upsetting is he'd probably be making like just sequels to all of his movies like every other arsehole actor as they get older. I feel the loss, because I think we have a really good slew of like these like comedic performances, But like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles really makes me wish we'd had a more of a dramatic turn. You know, like Robin Williams did have a couple of dramatic movies, and we didn't get them from
good
John
point.
Candy because he wasn't at that stage of his career. So we got the funny, schlubby, doing B movies, doing stuff like this, which is like fairly like middle of the road, where he's amazing. But we never got like the someone giving John Candy like that. Do you know what I mean? The sad clown movie, and that's sad. And obviously, it's sad he's dead generally, but that's where you feel the loss.
That's a very good point.
It goes to the Good Will Hunting effect, doesn't it? Of like fucking, that's a performance which is even more sentimental than it was when Williams was alive, because you're looking back and you see, he's lost his wife and there's he's got a beard. It's always a sign of someone who's
instantly has gravitas.
Someone who's really struggling with. Now it's ruined. Now they're going to be clean shaven. That's what's going to be the cinema shortcut going forward. So I just think I find it very difficult. And it also, to go back to a wider point, I think, about this movie, is that it just undercuts a little bit of any attempt at trying to make Candy a loser and a bit more, less got his shit together. Because that's the thing, the movie's telling us he doesn't have his shit together and he can go play golf whenever he wants, but actually he's a really capable parent or caregiver, and he's really empathetic, and he makes mistakes and he fucks up a little bit, but most of the time it's because he's dancing with the next door neighbor, totally bizarre character. Like, what are you doing in this movie? It's just
very real. She's a 1950s character, Sam.
Yes.
She's a loose woman who she's like, man, this arch, usually middle-aged female character who just pounces on any man. This character, this is a trope, and I've not looked it up, but like, it's in everything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
John Candy, you'd say, not the most conventionally attractive man that you've ever seen.
The guy's got game. You can't deny it.
You can't deny it.
I'm sure John Candy did just fine, but like, yeah, he's not your traditional like seeing him from a distance and thinking, that's a man I'd like to get to know.
Husband material.
Yeah. Oh, he gets it. He got it.
Fucking hell.
And so we talked about stuff that we would have liked to see more of in this movie. Well, we talk about things that like should this have been in the movie? And I'll start. There seem to be a lot of like scenes that seem to be put in there randomly. So, the most prominent one for me is where he goes into the school to talk to the principal about the young daughter. You get no indication whatsoever that she's struggling in school or upset by school or that she's been talking to the principal. The mother has seemingly arranged a meeting between the principal and Uncle Buck, who don't. And this is what I mean. Like, we need to see more stuff if you're going to have scenes like this, because why would the mother, who seemingly has a disdain for Uncle Buck, go, I'll get Uncle Buck to meet with the principal, find out get to the bottom of this, Can
we postpone that? No.
Can we push that back? Yeah. It's not. Before you speak, Dave, I'll just say it's a fantastic scene to watch, and we all love that. That parent standing up for the kid to the grouchy sort of ogre of a teacher. Wonderful, but it feels unjustified. Go ahead, Dave.
I agree.
It's a writer's room thing. This is a total like, do you know what I mean? This is a skit they really, really liked when they wrote it, and so they put it in the movie. I kind of agree, Ross, that it would be like hi, can we rearrange? My dad had a heart attack, so I'm not in town. Like fucking that's a 4-second phone call. But it feels like they wanted to have the scene with the toilets because it's funny. John Candy's a big guy. The urinals that are really low down. That's funny. You can't argue with that. But then they obviously wanted it. They wanted the scene in the principal's office because, like, again, they wrote it and they must have just really liked it, and they just really liked the idea of John Candy going off, which is, and again, you can't argue with it. But I do agree. It kind of just feels like what we're doing. The same thing with the birthday party again.
Well,
yes.
Let me.
Again,
I've got that.
They must have just really loved it. But like, it's great. I fucking love the pancakes.
The clown, and everything like that is a weird. Play. And you're like, I mean, it is it's probably my favorite line from the film, which is, I'm in the world
Get
of
back
live.
in your mouse.
No, in the field of live, local entertainment. I'm a god. Like, I just think that's a great line.
Yeah.
The movie's full of those. The other one is, I don't know if I told you this, but I'm an amateur dentist.
I love that.
Which is great. And also, who let the cat out? We don't have a cat. Like, that's a good.
Oh, see,
But
no,
what
see
it-
that's okay because that can happen, that sort of thing. Because he doesn't
But-
live there, they don't know.
But
Go on.
it goes to your point, Dave, about like this is a writer's movie. We're gonna have these funny jokes that we've been telling for years, like that we can just drop in there and they can add character. But perhaps, Ross, you're correct in saying, do we need this? Like, is this a thing that we need? Could we not spend, as we are continue to labour the point, more time exploring like Uncle Buck's character flaws?
And can I just say, listeners, mark the day. It is the 2nd of February, 2023, where both Sam and Dave agreed with something I've said. Kalu Kalay, it's a wonderful day.
I agree with things you say all the time, Ross. Usually when you have a
The
go at
both
Sam,
of you,
but,
both of you.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
it
Mark
does
the day,
feel like this
listeners.
movie was.
Lies.
2nd of
It does
February,
feel like-
2146. This is when normality was restored.
Yeah,
Continue.
it does feel like this is a movie that could have been
Captain's
based on a
logging me there.
spec script in a way that would sort of explain some of it.
Yes.
But it wasn't. John Hughes wrote this.
Part of his lock-in early 1930s deal with Universal. Yeah.
this production studio deal, yeah, that does feel 50 years later than it should have been, where he'd agreed to do 4 movies.
Yeah.
This doesn't really happen anymore,
No.
where a studio contracts a writer and director to make 4 movies. They don't really care what 4 movies. The contract just stipulates that they have to make 4 movies. So you get stuff like this, where he was obviously like, right, what have we got? We got, let's have a single man who's 40, fucking looking after kids. Great, fantastic. 3 Men and a Baby was great. Let's do that. And that kind of is where this comes from. And I think that's why so many of the scenes, like, honestly, most of the scenes with the small kids. My other favorite one is I can't remember what they say, but like they're just in the back of the car and it's winter and they're just like, and they turns around and he's like, and they just have a little tete-a-tete. Again, just doesn't really mesh with what's going on, but it's a fun little, like,
Yeah.
they wrote these little sketches.
It's a real like, oh, Macaulay who? Like, this kid is fucking just amazing. Like Culkin, he had, and obviously it fucked him up entirely. It's a bit of a shame for his own life.
He seems to be all right now. He seems to be okay now.
Oh yeah, he's worked through all of that. but
No, what I mean is he seems to be better. He seems to
He
be
seems to be.
clean,
He seems
and
to
he
be.
seems to be like better. No, we can
This-
say that. Fine.
This was his 3rd movie, and he's obviously just a supporting character. But a year later, or even probably, he's even making it right during the same time. Home Alone comes
I
out.
think they'll have started filming. No, it won't. It won't have been concurrent because Home Alone was filmed so close to when it was released. If you
Yeah, it
remember.
was. Yeah, you're right. So
and this was filmed over the course of like 3 days. or something. It wasn't
And,
a long time.
and you think you go from this movie to leading a franchise basically. And he's not like, Macaulay Culkin got to what, 94, I think, Richie Rich, and that was when he was done for various reasons. So
Yeah,
like,
because
fuck me,
funnily
they
enough,
really
child
cap-
labour laws exist for a reason. There's a
Yeah.
good logical foundation of that.
and many parent laws about how parents can inherit wealth have been developed, or court cases have been won and lost based on
Called safeguarding, and it's a fantastic thing.
yeah. I think Uncle Buck is. Do we think this is a forgotten classic? Do you think is that fair to describe it? I think there is elements.
I think
of a
that's
classic here.
a fair sort of description. And because you asked me had I seen this before and I hadn't, but I remember seeing clips. And what stuck out to me in my memory from childhood was that massive pancake that he was cooking.
Yeah.
And that brilliant line. Then, I could barely get the toast in through the front door. I'm like,
Oh, I think that's the best line in the movie. I
it's
genuinely.
quality.
And what an amazing birthday present! Like.
Right.
You can see the genuine joy on the 2 kids' faces.
Yeah, the wonder of that.
They are absolutely loving it, and this is where like he's the best uncle ever. This is the best
Yeah.
uncle ever because he's
Yep.
doing shit like this.
That would be wonderful to see then. Like, and I know we've sort of stressed this point before, but I would love to see that arc of Uncle Buck where basically he has them eating tuna out of a can, for breakfast. I mean, you see that with Macaulay Culkin's lunch, and then you have this thing then where he makes this grand, lovely breakfast for the kids, and he's learning. He goes from microwaving wet clothes to learning how to use the dryer. Maybe
Yeah.
you get to see that. But
Mhm.
a forgotten classic is a good way to describe it, Sam.
One more point, and then we can get the hell out of it. Is I think the relationship between Candy's character and Tia, John Louisa Kelly, who plays Tia, I think is there's an attempt, I think, at trying to like have some conflict and then bring them together in an arc. I don't think it quite lands because at the end of the movie, he's going around. I mean, it's quite funny and comical and exaggerated with the drill and everything. Like he's going around trying to find Tia at this party and all this stuff. I again, I think we maybe could have done, but I do appreciate the acting from Kelly because I think she's doing a really, really good job at like snarky teenager. Like it is, she's blistering,
insanely good. Yeah,
like you
Yeah,
hate it. You're
good
like,
all round as well.
It makes me fearful for when my child becomes a teenager. Genuinely, I'm like,
Lord.
oh my god.
Yeah.
Thank
That,
God
like,
we're really good.
Guys, because I come across as confident, I can't handle that.
No.
I would crumble. I'm very
Well, this is
sensitive.
it. You'll never be as confident as a 16-year-old girl. That is just
That's very
like,
true.
That is the peak of confidence. Is just any 16-year-old girl.
And also the rock bottom, weirdly.
And also the rock
Very
bottom.
paradoxical.
It's the duality of puberty. But I kind of agree. This is a forgotten classic. It's another one of those odd ones where my dad really loved this film, so I've seen it a million times. A bit like, have you even heard of the movie Hudson Hawk?
He's talking to you.
We'll
Rob.
circle back round.
Sorry,
round.
you got itchy and I had to fix my headphone. So,
I said, have we even heard of the
experiencing
movie
technical-
Hudson Hawk?
I've heard of Hudson Hawk, yes.
Yeah, you haven't seen it, right? And that's another
Wow,
movie
no.
I've seen a million times, totally undeservedly.
Because you had it on
I do
VHS.
think this is one of those movies that I treasure, though. That like,
Mhm.
I don't think it's Home Alone. I don't think it's as good as A Breakfast Club, and it shouldn't be, and it shouldn't be remembered as that. But I do adore it. I think it's really fun. And it's a shame that watching as an adult, you'd look at it differently than you as a kid. And there's kind of two movies here, and they don't really, and Hughes doesn't really make like a solid decision to go with one or the other. Do you know what I mean? We've got the teenager movie
absolutely.
and the kids movie, and do you know what I mean? Pick one to a certain extent.
And you know what? I think it's really nice to have movies that are flawed and that don't, but you treasure them. I think it's a lovely word to say about this film because it's a treasurable movie, isn't it? It's a movie where you can enjoy the pancakes and you can enjoy John Candy and you can just enjoy it and you just fuck the rest of it. Like that's a fun. I'm not quite there with you because I don't have the nostalgia factor for this. I watched this when I was older, but I still think that there's a heck of a lot to enjoy in this film. And thank Christ we're not watching some fucking miserable goddamn grey and brown movie where where nothing joyous happens. We're not quite throwing pies in this, but we're pretty close, and that's what I enjoy. Thank God.
Oh, you take the credits out. You're the sweet spot right there, aren't you?
Oh yeah, and it's 90 odd minutes. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's cracking.
Gone in 90 minutes.
It's one of those amazing movies.
Hashtag.
Nobody's saying this is a classic. It's really reminds me of Cop and a Half, which your wife loves. Arguably not a very great movie,
Cop and a Half.
but like there are
insult.
people out there. There are people out there who are like, "Oh my god, that movie's amazing! It's the best thing ever." And then you watch it and you're like, "Oh, it's okay. It's fine, it's fun."
My example is Bandits with
yes,
Kate Blanchett.
Your example would involve a three-way relationship, wouldn't it?
Wow,
Your example would involve a central plot of polygamy.
Oh, I remember Cop and a Half.
Cop and a Half.
Yes.
I'm a little bit confused about your accusation.
Episode, Sam?
Yeah, that is. We didn't. We ended up.
Oh, we did that. That was one of the very first episodes we did.
Thank
Ross.
God. I'm just gonna walk us back. To your accusations of of an interest in polygamy, Dave. I mean,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Good. This is
All
All right,
good.
Sam. Sorry. Defend yourself. Defend it. We're listening. Defend yourself.
well, I'm just
Sorry.
no, I'm
attack
ask-
people who are interested in polygamy on the podcast on YouTube.
I'm just asking.
I don't think you get
Big
to
up,
hire them in this one,
stupid.
Dave.
I'm just asking for a little bit more information before you accuse me and destroy my marriage. That's what I'm suggesting.
I'm not
Nothing.
sure I have the what's the word? The journalistic clout to destroy anyone's
Wow,
marriage.
this
Or
is making-
anyone's
He's
belief
referring
by
to
word.
Cristal, Sam.
Okay. I mean, it is making it sound a lot worse when you don't say anything. So I think we should move on.
Hey,
I
bro-
feel
bro-
like I should be guilty. I think I might.
I was about to say bros. I was like,
No. Why listen? Because we enjoy employment here at the Imaginary Movie Podcast. We enjoy employment.
My
I will-
legal
I will
statement shall
say-
be that
I will-
I was making an easy joke at Sam's expense.
Yes, and my obvious guilt channel that into a defense mechanism. That's why we're here.
You
Sam,
do
are you
seem
sweating?
rough, but really guilty.
Right, guys. See you later on. See you later. Cheers. Bye.
I will say.
Oh no,
what-
Sam's computer's crashed.
Have
Oh
a
no,
good one.
we've lost the podcast.
We lost the episode. Oh, and it deleted itself from YouTube.
the
Well,
last
I
thing
think I got out of that one.
Fuck it.
Let
I'll
Ross
forget
talk,
it.
let
All
Ross
right.
talk.
Good night, everybody.
Ross,
No, go on, Ross.
Fuck,
Sorry.
It's dead. It's
Tell
dead.
me. No, it's fun.
The last thing I was going to say is that what this movie does well, and it reminds me of, what is it called? Is it Despicable People, Rotten People? Danny DeVito and Bette Midler. Rotten
what's
Scott.
that
no.
called?
We did it a few weeks ago, didn't we?
Yeah. Anyway, but basically what that movie did was essentially like 10 minutes in, you know what the movie is. Here's the plot. And now it's all going to unfold. And that's what Uncle Buck does. 10
Mhm.
minutes in, the parents are gone. Her father's had a heart attack. Uncle Buck is in the house and go. It almost feels like a feature length episode of Whose Line Is It Anyway, where he goes, okay, here's the scenario and act it out.
Yeah,
And that's what you get. You get a fantastic production.
There must
It's
be
not trying to make you think. It's great. This is a
Mm,
proper like just turn your brain off and watch in the best way
Yes.
possible.
I mean that has been our criticism, or at least mine all the way through, that it doesn't do that. But I think you're right to say that there is a
One movie you can just sort of watch.
no,
you
but
know?
I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying that there's value in that. Yeah,
So,
I think the personal attacks have just. Oof, I'm feeling very uncomfortable, guys. Very uncomfortable.
God.
There we go. Right. Well, next week we'll be discussing a movie not about polygamy. We'll be.
And join us as Sam sleeps on our couch.
Fantastic. That's a great ending. Well done, Ross. Absolutely brilliant. Oh,
Oh man! Right, hit and stop.
right. Let's end.
I
it
really
there.
love that movie. I just
Bye, viewer. Thanks for watching. If you watched on YouTube,
Peace out.
you clearly had nothing better to do. No, don't insult the audience.